Welcome back to the Tiberium Hangar. Happy Friday, everybody. And I hope everybody's doing well. Going into a great weekend, last shopping weekend prior to Christmas. So it's probably kind of crazy out there. And with that, I want to talk about something that I always think about around Christmas time. And that was the I wish I had that. A lot of the wishes we found in the wish book, like the catalogs. You got it Sears, J.C. Penney, Dillard's. It's kind of funny. I've got a story about that in here to discuss. But things change. Like, we still have wish we had that thoughts, but it's way different than it was back then. But the scary part is it's still very much the same. And I'm going to talk about the progression of this whole thought process, especially for Transformers collectors. And it's really hitting the nail on the head. And there's a lot of obstacles to overcome. Talk about this and more. I wish I had that coming up. All right, so the first moment that I had, I wish I had that moment when it came to Transformers when I was a kid, was in 1984 when I wanted Optimus Prime. Don't need to get too deep into that discussion, but that was a big thing to me to get an Optimus Prime. And I think any kid that was into Transformers in 1984 that jumped on the bandwagon the day the show came out, kind of is how it felt for me, wanted Optimus Prime. But it was kind of elusive, kind of hard to get, and a little on the expensive side. As you can see from here, it says it was a $20.99 figure. I swear it was a $25 figure. I do remember going to the store and looking for Optimus Prime as Christmas approached and seeing them sell out, seeing that there were no Optimus Primes here, and I remember getting in a bit of a panic attack wanting an Optimus Prime. I wished I had that. Someone put me at ease, either my mom or my grandma or whatever, and I did get it for Christmas, and it was exciting, and I finally got it. Going back to this picture, which I'll refer to a couple of times, I did also get the Megatron. I was not really that impressed with Megatron. It's so weird because it's one of those figures that nowadays as collectors, we wish we have it now. It's very expensive. You know, as time progressed, the I wish I had that mentality as a kid really hit home with Soundwave. I couldn't find the figure anywhere, and I know it was about a $17 or $18 figure when it was released, and it took me years to track one down. As a kid, the only time I ever saw it in a store, never saw it in a Walmart or TG&Y or whatever, was at a Dillard's for $33, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it for that. It was one of those things. As a kid, I searched out Soundwave, and when I finally got it we're talking years later, to a kid, that's a big deal, years later, when I finally got it, it was an impressive figure. I really and thoroughly enjoyed that figure, which is probably why Soundwave is still one of my favorites today. Not just the character from the show, but the toy itself, the G1 toy itself, was a great figure. And it followed suit with trying to hunt down Jetfire, and I can't even remember if I found Jetfire first or Soundwave first, because it was just an adventure all the time trying to find these. Believe it or not, Transformers were not easy to find. You couldn't just walk in the store and every one you wanted that year was available. You had to hunt them, and hunt them hard. See, Swoop was another one that was a tough one to get, and I think I had a picture showing, but it was a later release, so it didn't come out with all of the other Dinobots. Looking at this catalog picture here, even Sludge was released later, like Swoop, is my understanding. I don't understand why this catalog here is showing Swoop not there, but Sludge there. But I know how hard it was to track down Swoop, and it took me years. There was another one that took years, and I got that on a trade. And the thing is maybe it was the elusiveness of Swoop, but another figure that I thought was a good figure for G1. Swoop was awesome. So going back to this picture, as an adult collector, I went out and tried to find, as cheap as I could though, because I was super cheap. And that was my superpower for 20 years, is being super cheap. I wanted to get an Optimus Prime. I wanted to get Soundwave. Wanted to get Swoop. Wanted to get all those. I actually didn't even go after Megatron. The only reason I have so many is they showed up in lots, and I one day pieced them together to get some good ones. But I really wanted the ones that were my favorites. That's how I collected. Got to get a Jetfire, got to get all that stuff. And it's funny because as an adult collector, it kind of mirrored as a child what I wanted. It's the same stuff I wanted back then. So then we get into Masterpiece, and then Fridays are mostly about Masterpiece. But what really surprised me was that I really wasn't into this Masterpiece right away. Remember, I was cheap, and that was my superpower. So I did not drop $200 on the Takara MPO1, although I did want it. It wasn't a wish I had it. I said, I know there's going to be a way that they're going to make this available in the US, because then it was an import item. It was considered an import item. It was considered something that like nowadays we just know there's 11 US distributors, so many Chinese importers, all that. And so it does, even though we do buy import items, it didn't feel like we were buying import items. But this Prime eventually came out, and there was another place that put it out in a battle damage, and then we got the clean version at Walmart, and then the Walmarts were 75, got clearance to 25. That's when I started. That's what got me hooked. And then I went into, I wish I could have all these characters, all my favorite characters again, in Masterpiece scale. Again, it kind of cycles back, but Soundwave was one of the ones I wanted the most, mostly about my obsession with the cassettes. That was kind of one of the things that wanted me to get a Masterpiece Soundwave. And there was a problem. First of all, you were paying about $200 for this, but the additional cassette packs ended up costing $90 each or something along those lines. And I really don't know if there are other places to get it cheaper. And then down the road, we got KOs of them and stuff. But, when you're living in real time and you don't know what's going to get knocked off, how you'll get your hands on it, I just held off on this because, again, my superpower of being cheap paid off. Then we get into Toys R Us starting to import these. So Walmart did a few, Toys R Us did a lot, and I really miss those days. That's really one of the greatest things about Toys R Us. And it's not even just Transformers. They did, for all those years, Night Force and all these other recolors for G.I. Joe. But for the Masterpiece, the Soundwave included all 5 cassettes. So you got the whole set for $130 or something along those lines. Then I ended up getting 2 at a buy one, get one half off sale. So they were like $90 each after tax. So it was a really good value and got me deeper and deeper into Masterpiece. The I wish I could have that was paying off. I really did wish I could have this, but I used my cheapness power. And this was awesome. Really, I do wish we had stuff like this going on today. You can walk into Target, because Target was starting to do it with the NPM, and they seem to have stopped that. But would love to see that going on somewhere, anywhere, Masterpiece stuff. As I was enjoying my Takara, I never was one that was like, oh, I want to upgrade. But I couldn't stop thinking about Fans Toys. And they had their Acoustic Wave in 2012, which was, I don't know, slightly before the release of the Takara version. And I couldn't help but think, I kind of wish Fans Toys would put theirs out and let's see what they do. And I know they're going to have to kind of polish it up, make it a little bit better, because it's been over a decade since Takara put theirs out. So, eventually they're going to have to put theirs out. And they actually did. So the one they put out, they did a phenomenal job of that figure. I really like the mold and how they did it executed. You can actually get it as what they call a KO, but it's not really a KO. It's pretty much the same exact figure, but it's made by the designers instead of by actual Fans Toys. Anyway, this is one of the best figures they've made, and still to this day holds up. Very fantastic job. I wish I could have it. I knew something better than Takara could come along, and there it is, right there. As times change and our tastes change, the whole I wish I could have it thing changes. I will say this, now that I look back on it, not right when I started collecting, but as I've been collecting for a long time, I do wish that when I was a kid, I had all the deluxe Insecticons. I had all the standard Insecticons, but the deluxe Insecticons were kind of fun. I always thought they were just knockoffs, because you did get a lot of knockoff stuff back in the day of Transformers, and there was Transformer-ish and all these different select converters and all those different styles of transforming and converting figures. But I did have the Ransack figure when I was a kid, and I liked it. I really enjoyed it, even though I felt like it truly wasn't a Transformer because it wasn't in the cartoon. But I would have had fun with the rest of them. Most of the rest of them. It would have been fun to have. So I kind of think like I wish I would have had those back in the day. But now I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got the vintage ones. I would kind of retroactively pick those up. But I really want to see masterpiece representations. I think that's kind of where we are now. It's not so much I wish I could have something that's already been made. I think most collectors are, I wish this does get made. This does get finished. This will happen. Kind of feel the same way about Headmasters. Something I passed on as a kid, and I really thought the gimmick was silly back in the day, and maybe I was aging out at the time, but as I collected the vintage ones, I think, wow, these would have been a lot of fun. It's kind of a fun concept in a way, and I would have really enjoyed those as a kid, but I really, really would enjoy them in masterpiece representations today. So it kind of goes both ways, but Brainstorm was the first Headmaster I picked up, and the first figure I won in an auction on eBay on my phone. Now there's also the Target Masters, and we're seeing some of those come to life in masterpiece form. I would really like to see a Trigger Happy. It's funny too, because as I was working on this video, I was reading some comments, and somebody had left a comment about they want a Trigger Happy. I can understand that very much so, but Slugslinger looks like it's in the works. This is one of the most recent pictures from X-Transbots. And love X-Transbots or hate X-Transbots, they are giving us some of these wishes. They're making wishes come true. This isn't at the top of my list for characters, but it does look really good. I am impressed with the fact they're doing it. I know I've had a couple of issues with some of these figures in the past, but they've been relatively minor and not really that big of a deal. I'm just glad that they're making them. It's a whole lot of fun, and they're relatively high quality, barring a couple of very small pieces in there. There's some areas where they just use too thin a plastic, in my opinion. But past that, the design's amazing. They look good in both modes, and you're getting something brought into reality that we don't get from pretty much any other company. And I think I've said this 10 or 11 times, but I do want Power Dashers. I want to bring this point up real quick and just throw it in there just for fun. But the Power Dashers are kind of mellow-way, like one-offs, and very few people had them. I didn't even have them as a kid. I just kind of want them, the vintage ones, but I also want masterpiece representations. And every time I say, I kind of want to get the vintage ones, somebody always says, no, you don't. I guess they're not the greatest figures. I always wanted, I wished I could get Transformers that transformed on their own. And I thought about that for years, maybe even decades. It was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if Transformers could transform on their own? I even bought some car at Sam's that basically just stands up, and it's a transforming car, a sports car, radio control car, and it'll still move when it stands up. Nothing on the level of what we see with Robosen, but I also didn't want a $1,000 to $1,400 price tag. So I mean, if these were $100 and less, they would be in everybody's collection. But $1,000 kind of puts off 70-80% of the market to wanting to buy it. So with that, that's the downside. Still, we get a wish. I wish I had that coming true for a lot of people out there. Another funny small side note, if you've heard of Pixel Dan, evidently he's not a Transformer collector at all. He might have a few here and there, but he's decided that he's going to complete the entire run of Pretenders, which I think is fascinating, highly fascinating, and made me stop and look. How many Pretenders did they make? 1, 2, if I'm counting right, it looks like 29 of these things, and most of them run 100 to 300 each. That's not going to be a cheap journey. Now, getting back to G1 stuff, one of the things that people say I wish I have now, I wish I have vintage G1 Transformers in the package. And I gotta tell you, I almost fell out of my chair the first time I found out what a mint in the box G1 Transformer like Grimlock or Swoop go for sealed. It is astronomical. I witnessed a Grimlock sell for $2,000 sealed, and maybe it goes for even more than that. I've seen some Megatrons go for sealed and AFA graded for like 25,000. Now I don't know if the market's cooled off since then, and I'm not even in that world at all. But one thing I can say is that I wish I have that now can actually be realized by buying some KO stuff. Now I know a lot of people are like, no, I can't do KO. But for me personally, like I'm all over the KO stuff for 30 to 50 bucks a pop, and I'm a-okay with that. So I'll feel that little bit of a scratch that itch, if you will, with the KO stuff. But some people are all about $2,000 a figure, and that's awesome, I guess. But I prefer $30 KOs. And I'm gonna end this with a picture that I know I'm just gonna hear everybody say it anyway, but I wish I had a better Rodimus in my Masterpiece collection. I made a lot of videos about what they should make. That's not really what this video is about, and I spent a lot of time trying to not do that in this video, but I wish I had some of these things that are coming. I wish I had it back in the day. And guess what? I'm actually sitting in a place where I'm very happy with what I do have. And I don't wish for a whole lot anymore. I don't wish for 2.0s of everything that was made. I do wish for a few upgrades here and there. But with that, I'm curious what you think about this whole concept. And do you see your I wish I had change from 1984 to right now? And do you see the same similarities? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Have a great weekend, and we're going to have a great Christmas. Hope you do too. Teddy Hanger out.